Hashim. How are you?
Good. Yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on my YouTube channel. Today we'll be talking about your experience in passing the CFA exams, and I found you through Instagram. I really enjoyed a lot of your content, which are very finance-based. And before we start, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm currently working in Baker Tilly, which is it's an international accounting and advisory practice. I'm based in Calgary, where I'm on the advisory team. So what we do is we work primarily on evaluations and M&A engagements. I grew up in Calgary my whole life. Went to University of Calgary as well. Did a BCom in finance and finished off my CFA recently as well. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
So let's talk a little bit about your experience with the CFA and what got you started. Why did you start it, and when did you get your designation?
Yeah, so when I was graduating in 2021, COVID was obviously a big thing, and the job market wasn't looking the best. So I really wanted a way to stand out from the crowd and just make my CV stronger. And after a lot of research, I landed on the CFA, and I guess because of how hard it is, it also drives a lot of value from that alone. So I decided to pursue the CFA for that. We'll start it off with that, and then it was more so of a personal challenge for me as well. Just wanted to prove to myself that I could complete it. So it was a mixture of just job market not being the best, me wanting the CV to stand out, and just as a personal challenge too.
Mm-hmm. And when you were pursuing the CFA designation, were you working by any chance?
No, so my level 1, I completed, I think about 3 to 4 months after I graduated. So I think I started studying a few months before my graduation, and then I wrote the exam about 3 to 4 months after I graduated. So at that point, no, I just graduated and I didn't have any role.
Okay. So you had like quite a lot of time in your hands to actually dedicate to studying.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the process that you have used. What materials did you use? What are some of the things that really worked well? What are some of the things that did not go well or did not work well? And maybe like something that you feel like some of the people listening will benefit from watching you today.
So I think a pretty common factor, you're going to get a lot of candidates, not just for the CFA program, but for a lot of designations or big exams, is the common denominator is discipline, right? So I think for me, I set out about 2 hours on the weekdays and then 3 hours on the weekends. I would study, I would need to study, right? So, and if I was busy in the evenings, I would dedicate 1 hour before work and then 1 hour after work, right? Or if I was on the weekends, 3 hours, just sort of split it up across the days. And the main thing is you just actually, there's gonna be a lot of days that you don't want to study, but you have to find the discipline and say, I really have to sit down and get through this content. And there's specific ways I did it. So one of the main things I used was a Pomodoro technique. Yeah, so how I utilize it was 30 minutes on. So I would do 30 minutes of active studying and then 5 minutes off, and then 30 minutes on again. And then I would take a bit of a longer break, maybe 20-minute break. And then I would do 30 minutes on and then 5 minutes off and then 30 minutes on again. So that would come up to about 2 hours. I found that really useful just because it sectioned off every single study session that you needed to do, and 30 minutes didn't seem long. So you just had to do 4 30-minute sessions, and now you got 2 hours of studying done. Another thing I used was a prep provider. So I used Mark Meldrum, and I know that a lot of candidates use Mark Meldrum as well. But yeah, he was really helpful. I think I tried just doing the CFA curriculum, like use the textbook initially for like the first 3 months, and it's really dry, right? It's really wordy, and it's tough to get through. So I found prep providers generally do help in that. They make PDF versions of notes for you. They make some videos which would help digest the content a bit easier. So yeah, Mark Meldrum was another resource I used, and yeah, like I say, the biggest thing was discipline, and then also the Pomodoro technique, which really helped too.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. It's the first time I meet someone who tells me that they only did 2 hours per week, like not per week, like on the weekdays, and then 3 hours on the weekends.
Yeah, and sorry to cut you off, but that would also be with 1 or 2 days off. So I wouldn't be studying for the full. So I would probably take off maybe a Friday or Tuesday, like whichever weekday I would have busy or would there be too much stuff going on, I would probably just take that weekday off. So 1 or 2 days off per week as well.
Okay, and how many months did you dedicate for the whole preparation?
6 months.
Is this for all the levels or just for, like, let's say level 1?
All of them. 6 months.
Damn, that's quite incredible. Like, because I know that when I was like doing when I was preparing for the exams, I was actually putting 5 hours on a regular week, and then I would do 8 hours on a weekday, like on the weekend, and this was like Saturday 8 hours or maybe Sunday 8 hours, but really, like, I was just putting so many hours.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting what you have just said.
Yeah, no, it's and it's intentional as well. Like I feel like I tried the whole studying very, very long periods, and I just find that you get burnt out really easily, right?
Mm-hmm.
And studying for an exam that's gonna take up to 6 months to study for, you really need to be sure that you're not getting burnt out really early on in the process. And how you do that, for me at least, was section off all the time. Don't make sure you're not studying crazy long days, 9, 10, 12 hours. I did have those days where I would be studying 8 to 12 hours a day, but that was more towards the later end, maybe the last month coming up to the exam, where I would just be doing straight practice questions and stuff. Those long days, which I would also take time off work for, would be maybe 2 to 3 weeks before the exam.
Right. And did you only use Mark Meldrum for all of the levels, or was it just for one?
No, Mark Meldrum for all the levels. I did use a CFA ecosystem, that learning ecosystem that they have, but that was primarily for the question banks that they have, question bank and mock exams. And level 3, I found it pretty helpful because level 3 is a different beast, right? It's very different from level 1 and 2 exams. So I did utilize a bit of the actual text that they had for the CFA curriculum.
And which level did you feel like it was the hardest? Was it level 3?
You know what, I'd say so. No, level 3 was the hardest. Even though I did thankfully I passed on the first attempt, but it was the hardest. I walked out of that exam and I didn't think I passed. It was that exam was brutal. So yeah, I mean, the morning of getting the results, I was pretty surprised, to say the least. But no, I'm thankful. Yeah.
And tell me another thing, because you mentioned that when you did your level 1, it was like 3-4 months after you finished your bachelor degree. Did you feel like that was a good thing to do? Because I know sometimes people take a break. Sometimes some other people do it while they're still like studying for their undergraduate. What would you say about that?
Yeah, the time aspect of that really helped, just because I had all this free time. So that part, just having maybe like 12, 14, 15 hours a day, just being dedicated to studying if I needed it. So the time aspect of it really helped. But I don't know if you remember, but during COVID, they actually pushed the exam back. So I was sitting for that specific exam, and I think I was supposed to write it it was coming up to a month or two, and then they sent out this mass email where, exams getting pushed back now. So then I had to reconfigure my whole study routine and start from fresh, essentially. But no, that we're like having that time, it definitely did help. I don't think it was bad for me. I know the pass rate for that exam that I sat in was 22%, so it was one of the lowest in like the CFA history. But part that was, I could probably dedicate a bit of that towards COVID. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, the more time definitely did help.
And you mentioned that level 3 was probably one of the hardest. Was there anything in particular that you did differently compared to level 1 and level 2?
So You do have to treat level 3 like a different exam, because level 1 and level 2, it's a bit more technical, right? So you could in theory memorize all the formulas, all the like the curriculum, and then I'd say you'd make it through the exam if you could memorize all of it. Level 3, you actually have to know your stuff, right? So you got to know how to apply whatever you learned in maybe level 1, level 2, and even level 3. Just memorizing a formula or knowing how for example, A and B are correlated, how C and B are correlated, how all that would sort of lead to something that wouldn't really help in level 3. You really have to know your stuff, how to apply everything you've learned, all your formulas, and that's why it was a hard exam, which is why I also start reading a bit of the textbook, because what the CFA text does, it explains everything to you, right? Whereas prep providers give you a nice high-level overview of all the content. CFA goes a bit more into depth, and if you don't understand a concept, you got to make sure you understand it before the exam.
Yeah, I agree. It's you have to tackle it differently. I always say you really have to think of that exam as if you were an actual portfolio manager and connect every single topic that you have studied, and think like you were actually an advisor and answering questions of your clients. Like literally, that's how it is.
100%.
Yeah. And so, were you also part of the group of people that were doing the pathways for the CFA program? I think they have introduced like the pathway, if I'm not mistaken. Can you share a little bit about that? How was that experience?
Yeah, so the 3 pathways that were available were portfolio management, private markets, and I think it was private wealth. I personally took the private markets pathway. It just tied in a bit more to what I do on a daily basis, working with private equity, working with private companies, doing valuations and stuff, M&A engagement. So it just tied in a bit more closely to what I do. Mm-hmm. I know a big focus of CFA is also portfolio management. It's just not somewhere where I saw my career going, so I just decided on private markets.
Okay. Usually that one, you just complete that pathway like after giving the exam. I don't think it's like part of like whether you pass the exam. It doesn't depend on that, if I'm not mistaken.
No, so I think I think we may be talking about 2 different things. So I'm referring to more so the level 3 exam had like 3 specializations you could do, right? So that's what I'm referring to. I think you're referring to a bit more. Is it called a pathway? I'm not sure.
I don't remember what it's called actually.
Okay. Well, whatever it's called, what you're referring to is like the thing you have to do before or after the exam, and you just get a completion grade on it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, that one as well. I'm not sure what I did for that. I think it was one of them. I did equity research, and the level 3 I did. What was it? I think it was something in due diligence, portfolio management or due diligence, something like that. But yeah, those are really easy. Like it's just videos you have to sit through, and you get a completion grade at the end of it. So yeah.
Gotcha. So now that you are a CFA charter holder, how do you feel like it helps with your career? Do you feel like from a professional level it really helped? Because I know that you wanted to do something at the beginning when you started with the CFA journey and everything, and you feel like it was going to add value. How do you feel about it now?
Yeah, no, it definitely did add value, especially from a technical standpoint. Like you have a huge arsenal of formulas, toolkits, methodologies that you can use for any specific engagement, right? So that is really helpful, just knowing that you can go into your notes and have a lot of different methodologies and tools to utilize in an everyday engagement. So that was neat. But one part of it that I didn't expect was the networking with the CFA, because the CFA Society here in Calgary puts on a lot of, they have webinars, they have a lot of in-person events, and just being able to utilize that is huge. There's not a lot of organizations that put on as frequently as CFA does for these networking opportunities. So it's nice to go out and meet like other CFA charter holders. And that part's really valuable.
Nice. And I know that you don't only have the CFA charter holder, but you do have another designation, which is the CBF, maybe CBV actually. And
That's one.
if you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the CBV designation, it's a chartered business valuator. So it specializes in business valuation for multiple different sorts of industries, different sort of businesses, different phases that they're in. I undertook that designation after the first role I got out of university, and it was a valuations role. And in Canada, the CBV has been gaining a lot of steam. I think specifically for that reason is for business valuations, right? So, what I would say about it is it's a very practical designation, right? CFA has a wide breadth of information. You go over all different topics of finance, economics, quantitative theory, portfolio management, but the CBV is very focused on business valuation, right? And all the exams are actually on Excel. So you're learning financial modeling as you go. You're working on real life case scenarios as you make your way through the exams. And you walk out of that program, the designation, fully knowing how to value a business, how to take an engagement from start to finish. So it's a very practical designation.
Wonderful. Well, it's the first time that I meet someone who actually did this designation, and I didn't know much about it. Now I feel like at least I know something about the program. So before I let you go, is there one tip that you want to share that you probably did not mention for anyone who wants to start with the CFA program?
So for the tip, it probably does sound a little counterintuitive, but I would say while you're studying for the exam, find a hobby, right? And what I mean by that is you're going to be studying for 6 months. You're going to be locked in on content, finance content, notes, and the days you do take a break, which I would say are 100% mandatory, you do need to find a day or two in the week to give yourself a break, re-energize. You do need a break from CFA content. And for me, that was fitness, right? So I joined some mixed martial arts classes, and just being able to do that 1 or 2 times a week and not have to study, it just sort of re-energizes yourself, and also improves clarity and focus when you do go back and study for the content. Like I mentioned before, burnout is a real thing, and you do want to avoid it. And this would probably be the best way you could avoid that burnout. Is guarantee you should get the 1 or 2 breaks in a week. And while you're in those breaks, you want to find a hobby. You just don't want to stay there and doom scroll on Instagram, right? You want to do something that's valuable and gets you focused for your next study session.
Nice. I really like it. No one ever mentioned that, so I actually really like it as a tip. Well, Hashim, thank you so much for coming. Before I let you go, tell us how people can connect with you.
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, Hashim Cheema, or I'm even on Instagram. I started an Instagram page where I talk a bit about finance and everything. So that page is just #finance and _. So yeah, either LinkedIn or Instagram.
Super. Thank you so much for coming.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.